Hello everyone, it's SpawnPoiint and we're kicking 2026 off with ROG's brand new 34-inch OLED gaming monitor, the PG34WCDN. It was literally only revealed at CES in Vegas today, and it's the world's first RGB QD-OLED. It's also got 360Hz support, a 0.03 millisecond response time, and a new glossy BlackShield coating that we've not seen before. So we're going to get this unboxed and go over the new features and see what it's like for gaming on in 2026. I've also got the 32-inch version here, which I will show you later too. Any questions you've got, just drop those below. Otherwise, let's just jump straight in. So inside the box we have everything that we need to get up and running, including this pouch which contains a DisplayPort cable, an HDMI 2.1 cable, a couple of USB cables and a power cable. Then there's the warranty information, a pack of stickers and a microfiber cloth for keeping that screen nice and clean. Then as usual the stand comes in two parts, the main arm that clicks onto the back of the monitor like this, and the metal feet which simply attach to the bottom of the arm and screw into place. Okay, now design-wise, this kind of looks like every other ROG monitor that we've seen in recent years. So it's got this clean but gaming-focused rear design with a huge ROG logo which also doubles up as RGB lighting. Now you can either have this powered on with various different color options, or you can switch it off completely in the settings. Then we have the large chunky piece in the middle which houses all of the internals and the heatsink, as well as the option to either use the provided stand or you can mount it using the VESA adapter that clicks onto the back. Now although the main area in the middle is quite chunky, while the screen and the overall frame is still pretty thin, something that we have got used to seeing on pretty much every OLED that launches. Now we do still have the main chin with the red ROG logo at the front, but this can be powered off if you prefer the stealthy look instead, and around the back of this chin is where the menu and the navigation buttons are. As for the stand, we've got the metal feet again, which if I'm being honest, I much prefer the stand on the XG range, as that's got a nice flat metal base instead. But movement is still great with full adjustments as you would expect, including tilt, pivot, rotate and height. But that's enough about the design, let's talk about the screen. So to test this thing out, we're going to be using this on my PC, which is rocking an RTX 5080, 64GB of RAM and an i9 14900K. I will of course show you some PS5 Pro gameplay later, as you might be interested in seeing how it looks. But first up, ROG have gone for a QD-OLED in their 2026 PG range. And that means we're not only getting those inky black levels with an improved true black rating of 500, but we're getting a very bright screen, because it is now hitting around 1300 nits peak brightness, and that is up 30% from the 1000 nits that they had before. And this is actually ridiculously bright. No one can argue that OLEDs are dim when you've got a screen as bright as this. And we're also getting a first this year, which is an RGB Stripe Pixel OLED. Now this is how we get the improved colors and more accurate colors, because it's using an RGB subpixel layout, which is something that we often have on LCD screens. I mean, QD-OLEDs already looks great already when compared to WOLEDs, but this thing looks really impressive. And then we have the inky black levels, so because of the nice glossy screen coating, we are getting nice deep blacks and contrast levels that we all love to see on OLEDs. However, don't forget this is a QD-OLED and not a WOLED panel, and this is where some users might experience raised blacks in well-lit rooms. You know, those purple or grey-like blacks that show up when you shine a light onto the screen. Well, something else that's new on the 2026 model is it now comes with BlackShield film, which is essentially a new screen coating this year. And it's supposed to do two things. It makes the screen 2.5 times less scratch resistant, although to be honest, I don't think I've ever scratched a monitor or TV before. Just use the microfiber cloth that ROG have provided and some water to clean it. But secondly, and more importantly, it actually improves the perceived black levels by up to 40% in well-lit rooms. And I think this is awesome. So here I'm shining my light onto the screen, and as you can see it's still got a very clearly nice glossy coating, but the black levels aren't affected in the same way a normal QD-OLED responds to this test. It's slightly raised, but it is a massive improvement. And you might have noticed this already, that although this is a 34-inch ultra-wide monitor, it's also a curved screen. But fortunately, it's not an 800R curve like we had on the older model, because they've gone for a slightly flatter and less aggressive 1800R curve this time, which you should be able to see quite clearly as I'm moving it around. Now this for me is the best curve that you could ask for at a screen of this size, because it gives you enough screen real estate without distorting the image. But what's it like for gaming? Well, firstly, the 1800R curve is perfect at this size, and as it's an ultra-wide, this is definitely more catered towards PC gaming, as you're not only getting a 3440 by 1440p resolution, but you're also getting up to 360Hz support, something you cannot get on consoles. So around the back it comes with two HDMI 2.1 ports, a DisplayPort 2.1 which offers the full 80 gigabits per second bandwidth, and there's also a 90 watt USB-C port, so it's perfect for hooking up your PC via either HDMI or DisplayPort, as well as your PS5, Xbox or a laptop via USB-C. Okay, but then jumping into story games like Cyberpunk or God of War always looks incredible on an ultrawide. But yeah, this just looks awesome. And you can really see how the colours pop with it being a QD-OLED. And the fact it's got a DCI P3 colour gamma of 99%, as well as true 10-bit, is not only great for gaming, but it's also great for photo and video editing too. And as you would expect, HDR is supported too, where you're getting HDR10 in content that supports it. Now, I do usually run my movies and TV shows with HDR on, pretty much all of the time, but when it comes to games, it does vary from game to game. Some look better with HDR and the improved contrast, but sometimes HDR just doesn't work for me. We've also already talked about the black levels and the contrast, but with that BlackShield film, this is definitely making a difference this year, even more than I was expecting. And it's also worth mentioning that another monitor launching this year is the PG32UCDN3, which also has the same BlackShield film. Now, I have got my hands on this one early, so again, I can show you how good it looks here, but I've not decided yet if I'm going to do a dedicated review on this one, but here it is anyway. But don't forget that the 34-inch also has a 360Hz refresh rate too, which is up from the previous 240Hz that we had last time. So if you're someone who chases high FPS figures while you're playing your FPS games like Valorant, Fortnite or the finals, this is where the refresh rate boost makes a huge difference. Bundle that with the 1440p resolution, VRR and a 0.03 millisecond response time, and this is a beast of a screen to have sitting on your desk. Motion is good too, but then you would kind of expect that now from an OLED with a response time and a refresh rate like this. And then because of that RGB sub-pixel layout that I mentioned earlier, the motion is slightly cleaner than a traditional OLED screen. So it doesn't really matter whether you're running or driving around, because the only screen tearing or stuttering you're going to see is from your GPU and not because of the screen at this point. Now let's be honest, most of you will probably grab a monitor like this to use for both gaming and work, as opposed to having two different monitors or two different setups. And since I switched to an ultrawide on my work setup a few years ago, I just couldn't go back. But because of that RGB sub-pixel arrangement, is also massively helping with text. So text is now sharper and has clearer edges than the previous gen QD-OLEDs. I'm trying to focus on the text here to show you how good it looks, but I'm not seeing any color fringing at all. It's also got auto KVM, something that's often talked about in the comments. So it means when you connect a mouse or keyboard directly to the monitor, you can control and swap between different sources like a laptop and PC. And a quick look around at the menus, because not much is really changed if you're familiar with the ROG UI. So tapping the menu button on the back of the chin gives us this pop-up overlay where you can view the current resolution, jump into the settings and change things like the brightness, contrast, profiles and HDR settings. You can also enable things like the FPS counter, on-screen timer and stopwatch. There's even a crosshair that you can embed onto your screen for those FPS sessions. Then there's the OLED Care Protection, which gives you settings like screensaver modes and pixel cleaning, and it also comes with OLED Care Pro, which is a 3-year warranty for peace of mind, along with their Neo proximity sensor. Now this means when you step away from your desk for a certain amount of time, the screen will dim or switch off to reduce power and protect the panel. Then once you walk back to the screen, it will switch back on. But there's also another new cool feature this year, which means you can save, export and import display settings using the Display Widget Center. So if you find a guide or settings online that you like the look of, you can import those straight into the monitor without manually tweaking the settings yourself. Now, at the time of making this video, the price hasn't yet been announced, but if you click the link below, it should hopefully give you the price now, as well as the expected dates for pre-order and shipping. Now, of course, this monitor was loaned to me for review. It is a review unit, so I'm not sure how much it's going to cost. Otherwise, that was a quick look at ROG's first gaming monitor in 2026. Anyone on the lookout for a 34-inch ultrawide this year, because this could be the one. And the fact that it's a QD-OLED with the added benefit of that new BlackShield film means we're getting decent blacks as well as a bright and colourful panel. Now drop a nice 2026 OLED in the comments and I'll give you a thumbs up for staying right till the end. And if you enjoyed today's video, check out this one next. Well, thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe and follow me everywhere. Until next time.